What happens when a royal guest turns a lighthearted chat into a full-blown disaster? In just 37 seconds, one comment would completely destroy Prince Harry's reputation and get him thrown off one of television's most beloved talk shows. Before we get into this absolutely wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because we're pulling back the curtain on Hollywood's dark side. We're exposing entitled celebrities and their shocking behavior the cameras never showed you. We've got the raw footage they don't want you to see, and you won't want to miss a single reveal. And after you hear what went down, drop a comment below and let us know what you think about this outrageous behavior. Now, let's get into what really happened that night. The Graham Norton Show is known for being fun, relaxed, and entertaining. Celebrities come on, they laugh, they tell stories, they have a good time. Graham Norton himself is one of the most likable hosts in the entire world. He's charming, he's funny, and he knows exactly how to make his guests feel comfortable. People love being on his show because it's always a good experience, or at least, it's supposed to be. On this particular evening, the guest lineup looked pretty exciting. Prince Harry was scheduled to appear alongside a few other celebrities. Everyone was looking forward to it. The audience was pumped. The energy in the studio was electric. This was supposed to be a fun, easygoing interview. Nobody expected what was about to happen. Graham Norton walked out on stage with his usual big smile and warm personality. The crowd went wild. He waved to everyone, made a few jokes, and got the show started. Everything seemed perfectly normal. He introduced Prince Harry, and the prince walked out to huge applause. He sat down on the famous red couch, smiled at the audience, and the interview began. At first, everything was going smoothly. Graham asked Prince Harry some basic questions about his recent projects and what he'd been up to. Harry answered them, but there was something slightly off about his tone. He seemed a bit stiff, maybe a little annoyed, but nothing too concerning yet. Graham, being the professional that he is, kept things moving along and tried to keep the energy positive. Then, Graham made a lighthearted joke. It was the kind of joke he makes all the time on his show. Nothing mean, nothing offensive, just a playful little comment meant to get a laugh. The audience chuckled. It was harmless, but Prince Harry didn't laugh. Instead, he stared at Graham with this cold, serious expression. There was this awkward silence. Graham noticed it immediately. You could see it on his face. He tried to move past it by asking another question, something about Harry's family. But instead of giving a normal answer, Prince Harry completely brushed it off. He gave this short, dismissive response that made it clear he wasn't interested in talking about it. Graham, ever the professional, smiled and tried a different approach. He brought up a funny story that had been in the news recently, thinking it would lighten the mood. The audience was still on board, still hoping this would turn into the fun interview they were expecting. But Prince Harry wasn't having it. He looked at Graham and said, "Is this really what you want to talk about? This is beneath me, honestly." The audience went silent. You could feel the tension immediately. Graham's smile faltered for just a second, but he recovered quickly. He's dealt with difficult guests before. He knows how to handle these situations. He laughed it off and said, "Well, we're just having a bit of fun here. That's what the show is all about." But Prince Harry wasn't done. He leaned back on the couch, crossed his arms, and said, "Fun? You call this fun? I came here thinking we'd have an actual intelligent conversation, not this tabloid nonsense." The audience didn't know how to react. A few people gasped. Others just sat there in shock. Graham Norton, to his credit, stayed calm. He kept his composure and said, "We can absolutely talk about whatever you'd like. What would you prefer to discuss?" Prince Harry rolled his eyes on live television. Then he said, "Maybe we could talk about something that actually matters instead of these ridiculous questions you keep asking." Graham's smile was still there, but you could tell he was starting to get frustrated. He's a patient man, but everyone has their limits. He said, very politely, "I think the audience is here to have a good time. We're not trying to do a hard-hitting news interview. This is a chat show." Prince Harry scoffed. He actually scoffed. Then he said something that shocked everyone watching. He looked directly at Graham and said, "Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you should try being a real journalist instead of just a comedian playing dress-up." The entire studio gasped. The audience couldn't believe what they just heard. Graham Norton's face went from friendly and warm to completely stunned. For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just stared at Prince Harry, probably trying to process what had just happened. One of the other guests on the couch looked absolutely mortified. They tried to jump in and say something to defuse the situation, but Prince Harry cut them off. He said, "No, I'm serious. I'm tired of these pointless interviews where nobody asks real questions. It's all just fluff and nonsense. Graham finally responded. His voice was still calm, but you could hear the edge in it. He said, "With all due respect, you agreed to come on this show. You knew what kind of show this is. We've been doing this for years, and our guests usually enjoy themselves." Prince Harry laughed. Not a friendly laugh, but a mean, mocking laugh. He said, "Enjoy themselves? Is that what you think? Most of your guests are just here to promote something. They're pretending to enjoy themselves because they have to." The other guests looked so uncomfortable. The audience was dead silent. This wasn't entertaining anymore. This was just painful to watch. Graham Norton, who is normally so quick with a witty comeback, seemed genuinely hurt by what Prince Harry was saying. Graham took a deep breath and said, "I think maybe we should take a quick break." But Prince Harry wasn't finished. He held up his hand and said, "No, let's not take a break. Let's actually address this. You bring people on here, you ask them silly questions, you make jokes at their expense, and you expect them to just smile and play along. Well, I'm not going to play along anymore." Graham's expression changed. The friendly, warm host was gone. In his place was someone who was clearly offended and upset. He said, very firmly, "I've never made jokes at anyone's expense in a way that was meant to be hurtful. Everything I do on this show is meant to be fun and lighthearted. If you're not comfortable with that, then perhaps you shouldn't have agreed to come on." Prince Harry stood up from the couch. He actually stood up in the middle of the interview. The audience gasped again. He pointed at Graham and said, "You know what? You're right. I shouldn't have come on. This show is a waste of time. And frankly, so are you." That was it. That was the moment everything fell apart completely. Graham Norton stood up as well. His face was red. You could see how angry he was, but he was still trying to maintain some level of professionalism. He said, in a voice that was shaking slightly, "I think you need to leave." Prince Harry laughed again, that same mean, mocking laugh. He said, "Oh, you're kicking me off? How precious. The little talk show host is kicking off a prince. This will be great for your ratings, won't it?" Graham didn't back down. He looked Prince Harry right in the eyes and said, "Yes, I am asking you to leave. You've been disrespectful to me, to my staff, to the other guests, and to this audience. We don't treat people like this on my show, and I won't allow anyone to treat me like this either." The audience started clapping, slowly at first, but then it grew louder and louder. They were applauding Graham for standing up for himself. Security was already making their way to the stage. Prince Harry looked around at the audience, seemingly surprised that they were supporting Graham instead of him. He threw his hands up and said, "Fine, I'm leaving. But everyone watching at home should know that this show is a joke, and so is your host." Graham didn't respond to that. He just stood there, watching as security escorted Prince Harry off the stage. The prince walked off, still muttering under his breath, still acting like he was the victim in all of this. The audience was still clapping for Graham. Once Prince Harry was gone, Graham turned to the audience and the remaining guests. He took a moment to collect himself. You could see how shaken he was. This wasn't something that happened on his show. Ever. He said, "Well, that was unexpected. I apologize to all of you for what just happened. That's not the kind of show we run here." The audience gave him another round of applause. The other guests immediately jumped in to support him. One of them said, "Graham, you handled that incredibly well. That was completely out of line." Another guest agreed and said they'd never seen anything like that before. Graham smiled, but it was a tired smile. He said, "Let's just move on and try to have a good rest of the show, shall we?" And that's exactly what they did. They continued with the other guests, made jokes, told stories, and tried to salvage what was left of the evening. But the damage was done. The clips of Prince Harry's meltdown spread everywhere within hours. Social media absolutely exploded. People could not believe what they had just witnessed. The overwhelming response was support for Graham Norton. People were calling Prince Harry entitled, rude, disrespectful, and completely out of touch with reality. Comments poured in from all over the world. People said things like, "Who does he think he is?" And Graham Norton is a treasure, and he didn't deserve that. Others pointed out that Prince Harry had agreed to go on the show, so complaining about the format made no sense. Some people even said this was just another example of how certain celebrities think they're above everyone else. Talk show hosts from other countries weighed in. Comedians commented on it. Entertainment journalists wrote articles analyzing every moment of the confrontation. Everyone had an opinion, and almost all of those opinions were negative towards Prince Harry. Graham Norton, on the other hand, was being praised for how he handled the situation. People respected that he didn't let himself be disrespected on his own show. Even people who weren't usually fans of talk shows were talking about it. It became one of those cultural moments that everyone was discussing. The clip was played over and over again on news programs, entertainment shows, and social media platforms. It was everywhere. What made it even worse for Prince Harry was that this wasn't an isolated incident. People started bringing up other times when he had seemed difficult or entitled in interviews. Suddenly, there was this pattern emerging. This wasn't just one bad day. This seemed to be part of a bigger attitude problem. Meanwhile, Graham Norton received an outpouring of love and support. His fans rallied around him. His ratings actually went up after the incident because people wanted to show their support by watching his show. Other celebrities reached out to him privately to tell him they thought he handled everything perfectly. The other guests who were on the show that night also spoke out. They did interviews where they talked about how uncomfortable the whole situation was. They praised Graham for staying professional and for standing up for himself. They said that nobody should have to deal with that kind of disrespect, especially not on their own show. Industry insiders started talking too. Producers, directors, and other people who work in television shared stories about working with difficult celebrities. Some of them hinted that Prince Harry had been difficult to work with in the past. Others said they weren't surprised by his behavior at all. Public relations experts analyzed the situation and talked about how badly Prince Harry had damaged his own reputation. They pointed out that he had turned what should have been a simple, fun interview into a complete disaster. They said it would take a lot of work to rebuild his public image after something like this. The contrast between Graham and Prince Harry couldn't have been more clear. Graham was calm, professional, and respectful, even when he was being insulted. Prince Harry was rude, aggressive, and completely inappropriate. Graham tried to salvage the situation multiple times, giving Prince Harry chances to turn things around. Prince Harry just kept making it worse. What made people especially angry was the entitlement. Prince Harry acted like he was too good for the show, too good for Graham, and too good for the audience. He seemed to think that his status meant he could treat people however he wanted. And when he was called out for his behavior, instead of apologizing or trying to fix things, he doubled down and made everything worse. The comment about Graham being just a comedian playing dress-up was particularly offensive. Graham Norton has been in the entertainment industry for decades. He's one of the most respected hosts in the world. He's won multiple awards. He's interviewed hundreds of celebrities. To dismiss all of that and reduce him to nothing was incredibly insulting, and the timing of Prince Harry standing up and pointing at Graham while calling him a waste of time, that image became iconic for all the wrong reasons. It was the perfect representation of everything people didn't like about entitled celebrities. It showed someone who had completely lost perspective and thought the rules didn't apply to them. The audience's reaction was telling too. They didn't side with Prince Harry just because of his title or his fame. They sided with Graham because he was in the right. They could see that he had been nothing but professional and that Prince Harry was the one causing problems. Their applause when Graham asked him to leave was genuine. They wanted Prince Harry gone. Security having to escort someone off. The Graham Norton show was unprecedented. It had never happened before. The show had hosted controversial guests, difficult personalities, and all kinds of celebrities over the years. But nobody had ever been so disrespectful that they had to be removed from the stage. Prince Harry had managed to be the first. The whole incident raised questions about celebrity culture and entitlement. People started having conversations about how fame and status can make some people think they're above basic manners and respect. They talked about how everyone, regardless of their background, should treat others with decency. Graham's response throughout the whole thing showed real class. He didn't lose his temper, even though he had every right to. He didn't start yelling or insulting Prince Harry back. He simply stood his ground, stated his boundaries, and asked someone who was being disrespectful to leave. That's how you handle a situation like that. The fact that Graham apologized to his audience afterwards showed his character too. He felt bad that they had to witness such an uncomfortable confrontation. He wanted to make sure they still had a good experience, even after everything that had happened. That's the mark of a true professional who cares about his craft and his audience. Looking at the whole situation, it's clear that Prince Harry was completely in the wrong. He came on the show with an attitude. He was dismissive from the start. He insulted the host, the show, and the entire format. He refused to engage in the lighthearted banter that the show is known for. And when things didn't go his way, he threw a tantrum instead of being an adult about it. Graham Norton, on the other hand, did everything right. He tried to keep things positive. He gave Prince Harry multiple opportunities to reset and start fresh. He remained professional even when he was being personally attacked. And when it became clear that the situation couldn't be salvaged, he made the difficult decision to ask his guests to leave. The incident became a teaching moment about respect, professionalism, and how to treat people. It showed that no amount of fame or status gives someone the right to be rude and dismissive. It demonstrated that standing up for yourself is important, even when facing someone with a powerful title or position. What's interesting is how quickly public opinion formed. Within hours, it was clear that the vast majority of people supported Graham. There wasn't much debate about who was right and who was wrong. The behavior was so obviously inappropriate that there wasn't really another side to argue. Prince Harry had made himself the villain of his own story. The clips of the confrontation show everything so clearly. You can see Graham trying to be friendly and welcoming. You can see Prince Harry's cold responses and dismissive attitude. You can see the exact moment when things went from uncomfortable to completely unacceptable. And you can see Graham's face when he realized he was going to have to kick someone off his show for the first time ever. The other guests' reactions are worth noting too. They tried to help. They tried to change the subject and diffuse the tension. But Prince Harry wasn't interested in being helped. He wanted to make his point, even if that point was just that he thought he was better than everyone else in the room. The audience's silence during the worst moments speaks volumes. Usually, the Graham Norton show has a lively, engaged audience that laughs and cheers. But during this confrontation, they were shocked into silence. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing. And when they finally did react, it was to support Graham, not the guest who was having a meltdown. Think about what Prince Harry actually said. He called the show beneath him. He said Graham was just a comedian playing dress-up. He called the interview a waste of time. He told Graham he should be a real journalist. He said the show was a joke. These weren't just mildly rude comments. These were deliberate, pointed insults designed to hurt and demean. And for what? Because Graham asked some lighthearted questions? Because the show wasn't formatted like a serious news interview? Prince Harry knew what kind of show he was going on. He had people who brief him on these things. He made the choice to appear. Nobody forced him to be there. So to show up and then complain about the very nature of the show is absurd. It's also worth pointing out that thousands of celebrities have appeared on the Graham Norton show over the years. Massive stars, legendary actors, acclaimed directors, celebrated musicians, and yes, even royalty. And somehow, all of them managed to have a good time without insulting the host or getting kicked off. What does that say about Prince Harry? The incident revealed something about character. When things don't go exactly the way someone wants, how do they react? Do they roll with it and make the best of the situation? Or do they lash out and blame everyone else? Prince Harry chose the latter. He couldn't handle a simple talk show appearance without turning it into a confrontation. Graham, by contrast, showed grace under pressure. He was being attacked on his own show, in front of his audience, while live on television. That's an incredibly difficult position to be in. But he handled it with dignity. He defended himself without being cruel. He set boundaries without losing his temper. That's impressive. The whole thing also highlighted the importance of treating people with respect, regardless of the setting. Whether you're on a talk show, in a business meeting, or just having a casual conversation, basic manners matter. Being rude to someone because you think their job isn't important enough or their questions aren't serious enough says a lot more about you than it does about them. Prince Harry's behavior suggested he believes his time and presence are so valuable that everyone should be grateful he showed up at all. That level of entitlement is staggering. Graham Norton runs one of the most successful talk shows in the world. His show is an honor to appear on, but Prince Harry acted like he was doing Graham a favor just by being there. The irony is that Prince Harry's outburst probably did more damage to his own reputation than anything Graham could have asked him. If he had just played along, been charming and funny, and treated the interview like the promotional opportunity it was supposed to be, everyone would have had a nice time. Instead, he created a scandal that will follow him for years. People remember these moments. They remember when celebrities show their true colors. They remember when someone is unnecessarily cruel to a beloved host. They remember when entitlement overtakes basic human decency. This incident will be part of Prince Harry's legacy now, whether he likes it or not. Graham Norton's legacy, on the other hand, only grew stronger from this. He proved that he won't tolerate disrespect on his show. He proved that he values his audience and his craft. He proved that he's not just a good host when things are going smoothly, but also when things get difficult. That's the kind of person you want running a talk show. The standing ovation Graham received after Prince Harry left was genuine and deserved. The audience recognized what they had just witnessed. They had seen someone try to bully and belittle their host, and they had seen their host stand up for himself. They wanted to show their support and appreciation, and they did, loudly and clearly. In the end, this incident is a perfect example of how not to behave on a talk show. It's a lesson in what happens when entitlement meets professionalism. It's a reminder that treating people with respect isn't optional, it's essential. And it's proof that audiences will always support the person who's in the right, regardless of titles or status. Prince Harry walked onto that stage thinking he was above it all. He walked off having shown everyone exactly who he really is. And Graham Norton, through no fault of his own, ended up being the hero of a story he never wanted to be part of. But he handled it perfectly, and that's why people will remember him as the good guy in all of this. So, what do you think? Was Graham right to kick Prince Harry off the show? Should Prince Harry have behaved differently? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to subscribe, because we're always bringing you the real stories that Hollywood doesn't want you to know about.